Late yesterday afternoon, we had a gully washer. We got 3 to 4 inches in the span of about an hour. And if that wasn't enough, we had amazing wind that came through. It knocked over the corn, blew some of the tomato plants over. I'm going to show you what's going on here.
All I have needs, I have not provided.
I have 2 beds of tomatoes, and you can see there were some that are getting ripe. So what happens when they get a deluge of water at this stage? The skin cannot expand to accommodate the water that the plant's going to send to it, and they'll split. So I'm going to be picking all the tomatoes that are getting ripe, and I will let them finish getting ripe inside. I'll also be pulling all those cages upright. The stakes did pretty well, and I'm going to have to rearrange the netting around them because I don't want the stink bugs to go in there and start destroying what's left of these tomato plants. Way down there at the end is a mustard plant that I've let go to seed. And then there's marigold plants up underneath the netting there. There's pepper plants that's under there. Cilantro. Right up here is dill. There's a variety of basil underneath the shade cloth. So I think I'll start there, and then I'll pick the tomatoes and straighten up those cages. So the basil is in various conditions here. Some of it looks pretty good and some of it doesn't. I think it also depends on the variety of basil. This is what I call the salad basil. And then I've got smaller leaf basil down here that's a stronger aroma. So here's the difference. This is what I call salad basil, and this is cooking basil. The reason I've got it covered is because I have discovered that basil cannot take the sunshine. When I planted the tomatoes and the basil 2.5 months ago, I thought that tomato plants would shade the basil from the sun, but I didn't get them close enough to the plants to do any good. And the plants didn't really get that tall this year. I'm not sure why, but they are producing a good amount of tomatoes. So now I'm going to get in there and get all those ripe tomatoes out of there. So the reason I have this netting is to keep the stink bugs out of the tomatoes, and I've already killed 2. So it doesn't take them long before they come on in when there's an opening and attack my tomatoes. So this is what they do. They pierce it with a proboscis. I guess that's how you say it. And I guess they're just looking for water because they never really lay anything. It's not like they're laying an egg in there and then it becomes a worm that destroys your tomato. No, they just pierce it in 100,000 different places. And oddly enough, they don't go after the Everglades tomatoes. I wish that we could take whatever it is in these Everglades tomatoes that the stink bugs don't like and somehow infuse it into the other tomatoes that you really want to use for canning. I make great tomato sauce out of these, but it's a lot of work. Join me as I garden through the seasons. I'll teach you how to grow lots of veggies, and we'll talk about the real things that happen in real gardens. I would really have liked to see these guys get fully ripe on the vine. But here you can see it's split from a few days ago when we had a lot of rain. And I didn't think it was going to hurt it. But these are huge. I'm going to save the seeds from them. I don't know if they're ripe enough for the seeds to be viable, but I'm going to try. I was getting ready to close out the video thinking it has this wonderful happy ending. I came out to check on the tomatoes and the tomato plants. There were some tomatoes that were ready, but sadly the tomato plants had died with the exception of 2. So you better believe I'm going to save the seeds from those plants because they're more resistant to this kind of thing. So come on in closer. I want to show you what I see. So this first one is a Roma variety. And just for reference, look how big these tomatoes are. And the plant isn't great, but it's still surviving. So I'm really hoping that these will become ripe and I'll be able to save the seeds from those. This one's light green, so maybe in a few days it'll be ready. This plant right here is a regular, what I call a salad tomato. Now that's not a great harvest from one plant, but I honestly don't remember if I've already pulled some tomatoes off of the plant. What I'm impressed with is that, well, it's still green. There's not a lot of dead growth on this. And I think that's a good trait that I want to keep for future generations of tomatoes. And this is where they will continue to get ripe in the corner of my dining room. I think this is about 10 or 12 pounds of tomatoes. I have picked 14.5 pounds so far, and the first tomatoes have been used already. So this is what I have so far, and hopefully the rest will be able to stay on the vine and get ripe.
Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto